Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. We have such an amazing and special show for you today. We're celebrating 10 years of We Need to Talk, a groundbreaking show that was the first of its kind and still, in many ways, is still the first. All women talking about all sports, and it is such an honor to be a part of it. We are going to hear from some amazing women who are trailblazers in the industry. This is something that you definitely don't want to miss. So listen, you got to subscribe, like, comment, share, do all of the things because you need to get those notifications when these episodes drop because you will not want to miss one episode of We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.
When I was a little girl and I decided I wanted to be in this industry, it was because of our next guest. Whenever I list my top 5 of women who have inspired me to do exactly what I'm doing right now, she is always on my list. Our next guest is Tracy Wolfson, and it is an inspirational opportunity for me to even be sitting on this couch with her. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us. When you think NFL, your name is the first name that always comes to mind for me for a multitude of different reasons. I mean, your start in this industry, you've seen every single corner of it. You've done it all to become the face, I feel like, of sideline reporting in the NFL. Just walk us through the beginning, the middle, the present, the past, all of it.
Well, thank you. And thank you for that introduction and those kind words. It really means a lot. And I love being here, by the way. This is awesome. I always wanted to be a sideline reporter. I was sitting in my room about 8, 9 years old. I was a little tomboy. I loved sports. I loved watching sports on TV. I would record myself, and I said, that's what I want to do. And it was actually the NBA Inside Stuff, which really inspired me. And Willow Bay was the reporter on there, or the host. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? That's what I want to do. I want to talk sports for the rest of my life. And it was a long road, don't get me wrong. And I didn't really have mentors at the time or people to look up to or ask how to make that path. I went to the University of Michigan so that I could be surrounded by big-time sports, of course, along with incredible academics. And I kind of found my way. I got an internship at HBO Sports. It opened some doors. I made connections, which, as you guys know, is so important in this business. And I got a job being a runner when I came back to Michigan, working for CBS and ABC, getting coffee, hanging banners up, whatever I needed to do on the field. And that opened the door for me to be a researcher for CBS when I graduated. And I got the opportunity to work, you know, the Final Four, March Madness, Nagano at the Olympics, and it was incredible. A lot of hands-on behind the scenes, but I really wanted to be on camera, and I had no tape to show for it. I didn't do anything in college to get in front of the camera, and so I took a really roundabout path for about 4 years. I was a researcher at Michigan, and then I left to be a broadcast agent for a year, and I got other people jobs. And when I was getting them their jobs, I was like, wait a second, they're already on the air. Like, wait, I'm not even anywhere yet. I was a producer for News 12 Long Island, the legendary Bob Wolf, and then I made a fake tape there. I sent it all over the country, and I got one opportunity in Trenton, New Jersey, and that was my start.
Wow. I mean, when you hear that path and when you think about everything that you did, you obviously have a lot of advice. Yeah. And I know that you're really big on mentorship. You even mentioned being mentored at one point. What advice would you give to women who want to be in the position that you're in now?
Yeah, I think first off, seek help, seek advice. You know, find a mentor, someone that can help you along the way. And I do. I mentor a ton of students at the University of Michigan and any young men and women trying to get into this business. I think it's really important. Number 2, I talked about keeping your contacts. Make your contacts and keep your contacts, because in this business, and honestly in any business these days, those are the contacts that are going to help you, you know, to that next step and get you in the door. I think versatility, being able to really kind of do anything and everything and being open. You know, of course, you know, my dream job was to do the NFL, but I did everything from auto racing to skiing to rodeo, to track and field gymnastics. I did a sumo wrestling show. I mean, I did
we need that footage. We need that footage.
It was on Oxygen Sports, if you remember that. I'm dating myself now. But you got to be willing to do everything and anything. And then I think the easiest thing, and I tell everyone, it seems so simple, just be a great teammate. be really good to work with. Because if people want to work with you, you will have longevity in this business. And so it's so simple, but just be a great teammate.
Obviously, we're here to celebrate We Need to Talk, and we'll celebrate all that in just one second. But I want to ask you about the other side of the coin, right? Because we are still in an industry that has so many barriers to break down for women in sports. And I think because of the lack of opportunities that still exist for women, sometimes women have a hard time finding other women to mentor them. And you have to kind of go into it solo, and you have to figure it out on your own accord. What would your advice be to those women who haven't found that one mentor and are just figuring it out as they go along?
Well, it makes me sad if you say that other women are not willing to, help or mentor or open door, because I think it's all about paying it forward. I wouldn't be here certainly without the women. You just had Lesley Visser on. I mean, she opened the door for me. So there are so many women that paved the way for me to be where I am. So I feel it's my responsibility to do the same to the younger women coming up in this industry. And I would tell those women that are maybe struggling in that area to keep knocking on that door, to keep reaching out, finding ways to connect. And it could be a simple, LinkedIn email. It could be a DM on Instagram. It could be through an agent. It could be through a friend, a parent, whatever it is. And I get, people reach out to me all the time in different forms and different mediums. And we're all busy, but we can take that extra second or extra few minutes to sit down and talk with someone, inspire them and help them, because I know what it was like trying to get into this business as well without someone guiding me. So I think it's really important, just keep, knocking on that door, and it will open.
Well, when we're talking about women helping women and mentoring and everything and knocking on doors, definitely knocked on a door with We Need to Talk, 10 years ago, starting this groundbreaking show. What has been your favorite We Need to Talk moment in these 10 years?
I think the moment was probably the first show when we all came together, and a lot of us didn't know each other, and we all come from different backgrounds and different experiences and personalities, and just getting to know everyone, connecting on that first show and realizing, wow, we're really part of something special here. And what I've loved is the relationships and the friendships that have developed from this show. I mean, we've done inspiring, incredible shows, right? We've tackled a lot of topics, really difficult ones, and some really fun ones as well. But I think for me, and I love that, we never get the chance to work amongst all women. That's very rare for us. So to have that opportunity and to be able to build those relationships and friendships amongst our peers in the business, to me, I take away that is one of the biggest things that We Need to Talk gave to me.
Obviously, we're sitting here 10 years later, but that first show, I mean, the nerves and just the feelings and the anxiousness of everything, being the first in any situation is nerve-wracking, because you never know how it's going to be perceived. So that first show, the emotion behind it, what was it like for all of the women on set?
There was such real emotion. We were tackling the Ray Rice situation, and it was really hard for everyone to do that. And so, and put themselves out there amongst, like I talked about, strangers almost, right? We might all know of each other, but to let yourself go, to really allow yourself to be yourself amongst others. It was, we didn't know how it was gonna work. We didn't wanna talk on top of each other. We were just trying to, feel our way, and there were certainly nerves. There was excitement, there was anticipation, and I think we killed it. And I think we walked away from that being like, wow, we're really part of something unique and different and historic here.
Well, we've had 10 years of We Need to Talk. What do you want to see in the next 10 years for women in sports, but also for women in sports broadcasting specifically, because it's such a groundbreaking show for every woman that has been on it. And what do you want to see in the next 10 for every woman that will be on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that there hasn't been another show, a copycat show of this, right? I mean, you have all-female broadcasts, which have been really amazing to see. You have all-female radio shows, but you don't have another all-female sports talk show, which is incredible to me. And I think, I don't think there's one that can compete with it. And so I think we've really set the standard. I think we have to continue to tackle those topics and make our voices heard. And what I love about it is bringing on new talent and new voices, and whether it's from right off the field to those that are in the business world, And I think that's what we're trying to see too in terms of women in sports. You know, more women getting opportunities, whether it is in the front office, whether it is on a field coaching, whether it's behind the scenes, whether it's in production or directing, or just in front of the camera. And so I think we will see that in the next 10 years. We've come a long way, but we've got a long way to go.
And I mean, if you could give a message to the people who are still out there who think that women don't have a place in this industry. Obviously, we've broke down so many barriers because of women like yourself and Lesley and everybody who's involved with this particular show, and even the women who aren't. But we still are in an industry that is, you know, predominantly male, has a lot of male followers. To those fans who still question whether or not a woman can get on a mic and talk about football, basketball, hockey, baseball, you name the sport, what do you want to say to those fans?
That's such an old school take. You know, I mean, that is so in the past. I don't think about it at all. When I get up in front of a camera, I don't think, oh, I'm a woman in sports amongst men doing this job. It never crosses my mind. And honestly, I've had an incredible experience amongst men throughout my career. Yeah. So I've never felt that way, and I don't think you can go in thinking that way. I think, one, do not Google yourself. Do not, you know, go on social media and check out your comments.
Stay out of those comments.
Stay out.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, that side of it, you really have to stay focused. And I always say, just Lesley actually is the one who kind of told me this. Just, you know, stay in your lane. Like, just understand who you are and block out everything else. Just be you. You can't be worried about everyone else doing this job. It will never work. Know your stuff. Be smart. Be out there. You know, make relationships. People trust you. And you'll have, you know, a long career in this business, and you'll be respected. And it won't matter whether you're a man or a woman. You just go out there and do your job.
Well, that's not advice just for sports broadcasting. That's for life. Right
there. Just go out there and do your job.
Stay in your lane, be who you are, and do your job.
Listen,
I'm here for that.
I hear word to Bill Belichick. Do your job.
We're on to Cincinnati. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.
You simply cannot talk about women in sports and the NBA without talking about our next guest. I've personally watched her for years and been a huge fan, and I'm just very honored to sit here with Allie LaForce. Thank you so much for joining the pod.
That's so kind of you. Thank you.
Well, you know, we're celebrating 10 years, and you were one of the people who started this historic show. What was it like on that first show, and how did you decide to do it? Because I know that had to be kind of like a crazy decision as well 10 years ago.
It was such an honor to be included, and I had just become a part of the CBS Sports family, and they are a family very much based in hard work, kindness, and dedication to good TV. And everyone that I had met that had worked at CBS had been a longtime employee of the company for a very specific reason, which is if you are a great, kind person and you're knowledgeable at what you do and you treat people the right way, you can have longevity in this business. And normally all you hear about this business is there's no longevity at all. So it was, the CBS family was immediately forward thinking and welcoming. And when they came up with the concept of this show, it was an honor because Suzanne Smith, our director, was one of the first women that ever welcomed me into the CBS family. I got to work March Madness with her, and she really took me under her wing. And, you know, when you're about to go on camera and a man is trying to get the show on the air, he's not always telling you that a hair is missing or tuck your shirt in, or and not always thinking to stand up to make sure that your voice is heard or that you had a say in which angle you're taking on the report. And so she just had so much power and was a woman in position, but also so much humility and experience in the business. So I knew she was a part of the show, which made it a no-brainer right from the start. And then Lisa Lesley, I mean, I had posters of her growing up all over my bedroom, and she was an icon and role model to me. To know she was going to be on the show was huge. And Tracy Wolfson, Lesley Visser, and Andrea Kramer, they, for the sideline position, they has set the stage and raised the bar. And so to think that I could be a part of that room was, I didn't feel worthy, to be honest, but I certainly never thought of saying no.
For sure. I mean, with the growth of this show, with the growth of you in so many different spaces in this industry, you've kind of seen every trial, tribulation, peak, valley, if you will. What has been the coolest thing that you say you can point to that you feel like you've had a hand in helping change to where we are currently in the sports industry?
That's such a great question. Before you said something I had a hand in, I was going to say going to the NBA bubble for 45 days. and watching the way the social justice or injustice movement shook the players, but then the way that they were trapped in that bubble, they couldn't just race home or disappear from it. They had to meet with each other, talk about their differences, and then decide as public figures and role models if they were going to create change or if they were going to hide. And the way that they rallied for the betterment of our country was so inspiring. And to think that I was just in that same community as them in Florida was a true honor and something I'll never forget. But I can't say I had a hand. I mean, covering it.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, that's a huge
I would say
part.
covering it is a part. But when it came to enacting the change, it was all the players.
How did that experience shape you as a journalist, as a sideline reporter? Because it was something it was unprecedented. It was a crazy time in this country, in this world in general. Then you add the addition of sports, being in this isolated space. I mean, there's worse places to be than Disney World, but still, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not home. It's not the familiarity of home. And it's never been done in this journalism space before.
I definitely just became more educated as a journalist. The books I read, the things that I researched, and then instead of just covering sport as a live moment in history and move on to the next airplane and the next venue and the next arena, researching what the sport meant to the athletes, how they could create change and what they were doing outside of the game, and focusing more of my reporting on dedicating it to those things, because those are the moments that make change, and seeing is believing. And so when a young person can watch a game and see their role model and hear that the role model is not just really a good three-point shooter, but instead he's actually shaping the community he lives in, that's even more powerful, and that will encourage them to make that a part of their daily routine too as they think about their future.
Well, speaking of being a journalist, you know, you've been in the game for a really long time, and there are a lot of people that are looking to be inspired by you. I always like a bit of advice, right? And since we have you here, I'm going to ask it. Is there one thing that you think somebody who wants to be a sports journalist should not do? And then also one thing they should do?
I hear the second part a lot, but the first part, not many people ask. You know, I do think balance is huge. I mean, I think to make it to a national level as a broadcaster, you have to have talent, hard work, and you have to have luck and timing. And I have never met a person that didn't have all of those things happen at a certain point in time, because if your luck and your timing comes when you're not prepared, it's no longer luck and timing. And if you're always prepared and you just never get the timing and the luck, that happens a lot to people too. But you have to have all four at any point in time to really make it. And there are exceptions, of course. But what not to do is ever feel like you've arrived. Never think that you are the smartest in the room. Always ask questions, always be learning, always be humbled by your position, and have gratitude towards where you are. And then, yeah, the other piece of advice would just be to always continue to ask questions and to be eager to know how you can be better.
10 years of We Need to Talk. It's been a lot that has happened in 10 years in this industry in general.
I feel like it was like 100 years forced into 10, you know, with COVID-19 and social movements.
Just hit fast forward on life.
I know.
It's actually very crazy. But seeing how the industry has changed specifically for women in the past 10 years, what is your hope for the next 10?
It was amazing to be in the room with Sarah Kustok yesterday, because she goes, I'm just so busy. I'm really glad I could make this dinner happen. And I thought, well, what's going on? Because the NBA is ramping up, but in a month or so. And I have an NFL game this week. And now a woman who played basketball isn't just an analyst for women's basketball. She's play-by-play, but not just for basketball. Now she's also doing NFL and radio. And so just to not be put in a lane is so refreshing. And sideline, I always wanted to do color commentating. I did a ton of it after I got done playing college basketball at Ohio University, and I loved it. But I did choose sideline reporting for flexibility to make my family happen. And so I did sacrifice a little bit of my original career path to have a rounded lifestyle that included the things that I wanted to outside of my career.
Of course.
But that's like the only really difficult thing is when, you know, I mean, if you are in a studio show, you have to live in a city and be there every single day for work.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing play-by-play, what's really hard is like to be available to be hired and positioned at any time, you have to have reps and comfortability in that position. So if I do sideline for 3 years and then a play-by-play opportunity comes up, I'm not prepared or qualified for that. So when you want to be ready to jump in this industry, you probably are going to have to be doing hundreds of reps in each seat, figuring out what you love and what you're passionate about, where you fit and what you're good at. And it was really easy for me to do analyst work in the college basketball space. But when I joined TNT, every analyst we have is a Hall of Famer and a legend. So what? I'm not going to hop in their seat. I'm not going to kick out Reggie Miller, you know, not even close. So yeah, I think like the feel and the balance, and it's always changing. It's always moving. I mean, the impact of even like incredible podcasts and social media now, and the platforms are only growing. The platforms to have a voice in this industry and space. So adjustability is critical, and it's not always easy, you know. Those decisions are really big decisions, and they define the future of your career. So they're hard ones to make.
Well, thank you. I mean, listen, saying that it's not always easy, that like vulnerability and also transparency, we appreciate here, and we just appreciate for you to have time to sit down with us today.
And also being honest that it does take a little bit of luck. I think
does.
that there's this like common
I mean,
ideology that it's just, if you work really hard, there's a lot of factors.
And outside of sports, think about just athletes. You can't choose if you're going to get injured or not, or the impact of the injury, or how long your recovery is going to take. I mean, luck is a part of every single thing in sport.
And also saying that like you did sideline because you wanted to be with your family more and stuff like that too. I don't think that
it was hard for me to say out loud. It's even hard for me to like accept, but it's the best decision I ever made. Yeah. But I don't even like saying it out loud, because I feel like I wanted to continue to raise the bar and shatter through the stereotypes for women. Like I
think it does though, because I think it shows that there is balance. That I think,
right.
You know what I mean?
That there isn't a definition of what shattering means, other than that you're living your life. That's a great point. That's a great point.
So I definitely think it may have not been in the way that you anticipated. It's just in a different way.
You're so raising the bar for you. You're
raising the bar for me by being on the show. So I really appreciate it. And thank you for telling me that you've been watching the NBA for so long.
No.
Because now I'm only relevant because I'm the voice of 2K. So all the young kids are like, she sounds familiar. Oh, you're on my video game. I'm like, this is how I'm going to stay relevant for the next 20 years.
No, you definitely get a lot of points for that.
2K is a big deal. 2K is a big deal. So listen, you're a legend for that one for sure.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Our next two guests are absolutely killing it on the sidelines for CBS, whether it's the NFL, whether it's college, and we absolutely love them. I get to work with one almost every single day at HQ. We have Jenny Dell, AJ Ross joining us. Welcome, girls.
We're happy to be
here. Thanks for having us. I feel like I've been waiting all day to see both of you. So I'm glad we're finally at this point.
This is the best for last. That's right.
The best for last. I want to talk about working the sidelines, right? NFL, college. Biggest similarity between the two and biggest difference between the two sidelines.
Okay, so I worked both. I've worked NFL. That's where I started my career at CBS, and then moving over to the college side. For me, tell me if I'm wrong. When I think about working the NFL sidelines, it's such a business. You know, these guys, these coaches, they have a prerogative and they want to coach. On the college side, they know every time they're opening up their mouths, it's almost like an opportunity to recruit. So the coaches handle the sideline reporters a little bit different, because they know there's a lot of student athletes sitting at home saying, ooh, I like what he just said to her. You know, maybe, and I'm not saying it's all that, but maybe I will take that recruiting trip, or that sounds like a coach I would want to play for. To me, it's very different in the NFL.
I would agree. I think there's more transparency as far as access in the NFL. Like we were just talking the other night with college, if there's an injury, you can't get a lot of information like you do on an NFL sideline. Even access and interviewing the players one-on-one, getting that information in advance is day and night. College, I did college prior to NFL. And I would also say the speed of the game and the intensity of the game is day and night too. You think it's fast, college, and then you go to a pro game and it flies. And just even the crack you hear firsthand and the O and D line, like it's just a different level, a different intensity, very different game, but adrenaline rush for sure.
I have one more point that I want to get across. I grew up in Connecticut. We were all about professionals over there. It was all about the NFL. We obviously had some talented football programs around in New England, but you know, the focus there.
Don't let us forget it.
Right.
Yes, we know.
The focus there was definitely a professional league. So when CBS first said, hey, we want to throw you on some college games and see how it works, in my mind, I was like, oh, college? Really? Okay. And then I went to my first SEC game, and my eyes just lit up. And I was like, why didn't I go to one of these universities in college? What was I thinking? This is amazing. The fans, they're so passionate. Obviously in the NFL too, but it's almost like the tradition and the fan base is just different in college.
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we as women working in sports, we have had a lot of inroads. You know, there's a lot of improvement that has been made, but I would imagine as women working in football, there are some things that could be a little bit challenging. What is a challenge that you've had working NFL in college, or, you know, for you both? What has been a challenge that you've had, and how have you overcome it?
I think one of the obvious challenges that a lot of us encounter is that, oh, you're a pretty face, but what do you really know about football? And when we have these meetings in advance of games, I can more often than not, especially meeting some of these coaches and players for the first time, and the way you ask your questions, the way you talk about the game, they are this expression comes over their face like, oh,
she knows what she's talking about.
Like, how do you think I got here?
You see it in real time. It's
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, they relax, and then there's a different level of, you know, how much they may give you and how comfortable they are. But it's amazing to me that that's still the case after all this time, after all these women that have knocked these doors open for years, you know, and others are coming behind like us, and to still have those expressions and encounters from time to time, not all the time, is just very interesting. But I think widespread, there's more respect, and you know, they're coming around the corner with that.
Many of the women that we were able to just host, we need to talk with. Those are the ones that were breaking down the doors and opening up the barriers for us, but it's still a problem. And I know just getting to the point where the coach also trusts you as a female, I feel like is different than a male counterpart that's on the sideline. So I know that Nick Saban, for example, at Alabama, he was one of those coaches that was much like Bill Belichick-esque in a way that you had to prove yourself to, and you had to establish a relationship so that A, he knew that you knew what you were talking about, and B, that he could trust you with certain information, and that you knew how to ask the proper questions, especially during the game, because that's always a sticky situation with some coaches. So yeah, it's definitely something we're still battling.
I mean, going back to the women that you just mentioned, 10 years of this show, and obviously everyone's in different stages of their careers. Some have been in 50 years, some 30, some 40, some 10, some 5. I mean, just being in a room with so many different careers and women who have seen so many different aspects of this industry and have gone through so many different trials and tribulations in this industry. What has it been like just to be able to absorb all of that?
It is osmosis, like you just expressed, and to know how these women have been excellent in not just their careers, but their respective lives as well, is such an amazing community to be a part of, and so inspirational, and how they're able to be phenomenal mothers and professionals and just phenomenal people. It, for me, affirms you can do it all. You know, there's sometimes these societal limitations, like you have to choose your career, choose family, or you can't necessarily find a healthy balance. And these women not only have found that, they thrive, and they set an example, a lofty example, I hope to follow one day.
Yeah.
It's funny when you think back. We were at a dinner last night and just sharing different stories and conversations, and I looked around the room, and just to be a part of that group of women who have just excelled in their careers and excelled as moms in just so many different avenues. What AJ was saying, it's just inspirational. But I went back to my first time working on air with the Boston Red Sox at Nesson, and my producer was incredible at the time, and he reached out to a couple people in the world of Boston just to give me some advice, and he put together a little document, and I went back and I saw 2 pieces of advice came from Lesley Visser and Tina Stavasio. So now this was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So these relationships have not just started here at CBS, but they really, you know, it's a small world that we're all in. And there's so many different paths that cross at different times. And we're just lucky to be here at CBS with such a strong group of women. I mean, Tracy Wolfson, can we just give her
her
moment?
flowers.
I know.
The moment I got a job here, she was the first person that reached out, and she's been such a mentor to me, and I'm sure to AJ too, and just to follow what she's doing and try and aspire to be more like Tracy. It's something I think about all the time.
No, you definitely. I can tell you when I first started at HQ and how you pulled me aside a lot of things and kind of schooled me on things about what not to say, what to say, things like that. Meetings I wasn't privy to because I hadn't started yet. And I see you running around and doing your thing and then running to go get your kids and being an amazing wife. And it's just amazing to be able to watch you do that in real time. But also just taking me kind of under your wing. I was the new kid on the block and I
got you, girl.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I think that it goes to show that I know that women sometimes in this industry can get a bad reputation. And we're not perfect and the industry's far from perfect, but I think moments like this show that there's sisterhood and there's camaraderie, even if it's in small little pieces every now and then,
Absolutely. So. And a culture at CBS that is not
different.
Exactly. It's not catty. It's not competitive. It's very supportive. And to your point with Tracy and so many other on-air talent, everyone has always been that same way and reaching out and offering support and being a listening ear when it's, girl, I need to talk to you about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've worked a lot of different places and that's not the standard.
And I think about
they
our
didn't pay me to say that.
Yeah.
I'm being very serious.
This is true. I think about our girls at CBS Sports HQ, Amanda Guerra, Jacqueline D'Agostino, Haley Sutton. I mean, the list goes on and on. Katie Mox now joining us down there. We have a special group down there. And we all support each other and we love each other. Yeah. And, it's like a family away from family. And I don't think that is the norm. So we are really lucky to be here. I know this sounds like we're all go CBS, but it's true. It really is true.
The violins and the champagne.
I know.
Well, speaking of champagne, we have 10 years we have to go celebrate.
We are about to celebrate for sure.
We're going to go do that right now. So
I'm ready.
We should.
Yeah, we should go do it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to us.
It is now time for one of our favorite segments, Connecting Changes Everything, presented by AT&T.
Today, we are connecting you with a sports pioneer and one of the original hosts of We Need to Talk, Lesley Visser, who shows us how her connection has changed everything in the world of sports broadcasting. We're here with a very special guest. To say that she is a legend is literally an understatement. She's been in sports broadcasting for 50 years. The one and only Lesley Visser. Thank you so much for being with us.
That is such, will you say it again?
We need to.
No, I love seeing you guys.
No, literally. And when I think about all of the firsts that you've had, I mean, there's so many things that we have now that we wouldn't have without you. And what is your favorite first? I know it's probably hard to pick, but what is the favorite first thing that you did in sports broadcasting?
Oh, gosh. Well, meeting someone, does that count? I actually met Nelson Mandela. I know. And he has an aura around him. It is a true aura. So, you guys know this sports, it's the ultimate passport. It takes you everywhere. And I think maybe being on the field in 2001, the Super Bowl, when the Patriots won because we'd just come off 9/11 and Robert Kraft, although when I first met him, he was Bobby Kraft back in 1977. But Bob Kraft said, "Today we are all patriots." And I really think that was such a unifying moment for the country. But, I got to go behind the Iron Curtain when Russia, before it was the wall. I actually covered the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was pretty profound. My little slice of the pie was Katarina Witt. You probably don't remember. She was a two-time Olympic skating champion, and she was the beautiful face of socialism. And so, her living in East Berlin for her was great because she traveled to the West. But I remember going through Checkpoint Charlie, and it was like it went from color to black and white. The people were huddled. The toilet paper was like sandpaper. Oh, wow. And, you watch people who were walked from like Dresden and Potsdam for days through the Brandenburg Gate just to taste freedom. So I've been humbled many times around the world, but what I carry from it is that sports, and it will take you everywhere. Think of the people you've talked to.
I love meeting women like yourself because I think it reminds women in my position just how far we've come and just how much you all have been just instrumental in making that possible. We were having a conversation off air about bathrooms. And I need you to tell this story before we talk about why we are here to celebrate We Need to Talk. But just hearing this story is mind-blowing because it's something so simple that we take for granted every single time we use a restroom. and you didn't have that luxury. So please go ahead and set the scene here, because I can't even do it justice.
Well, first of all, it gives me such gratitude that women are asking me these questions because, I was the only one. The Boston Globe made me the first woman to cover the NFL as a beat, and this is in the mid-'70s when the credential that I wore said no women or children in the press box. So, of course, they had no ladies' room, no provisions for equal access either, the locker room. My first, I think, 6 years covering the NFL, I did all the interviews in the parking lot.
Wow.
So that was the whole thing in itself. But I used to have to try to time using the restroom because they didn't have one up in the press box, the ladies' room. And the Patriots were not the gold standard then, so they got the ball 1st and 10 on their own 20. And it was likely they were only going to have 3 downs. So I used to say, can I get down the press elevator across the field to the public female restroom and get back upstairs before they punted?
Absolutely insane.
Wow. And when I think about that, it's going from literally not having a bathroom to get ready in, right? Or a bathroom to use, to being on an all-women's sports show. And we're going on 10 seasons. That's why we're here celebrating it. But what was it like that first day to be on set on a show that was groundbreaking, just like We Need to Talk is?
Oh, yeah, that's such a great question. It just started with an idea. And here we are. Here you are, 10 years later. And we needed the support of men. I don't know, has either of you yet been hired by a woman?
No.
Still in 2024.
Has not happened for me,
so
yeah.
The great thing is, we had Tyler Hale and Dan Weinberg and Sean McManus, then now David Burson, because we needed the opportunity, and that came from men. But that's how much it had evolved. Like when I started, it was one woman, and then some other places had one woman, and now we are this symphony of people, and I love it because we're from all different backgrounds. Some are players, some are reporters, some are hosts, some are podcasts, and I love that women now can do anything she wants, which was so unheard of. So I remember I got emotional just seeing all the female faces.
I want to ask you before we let you go, 10 years of We Need to Talk. What is your hope for not only this show, but women in this industry, wherever they find themselves, whether it's in front of the camera, behind the scenes, in a front office, for the next 10 years of women in sports?
Maybe there won't be any more firsts, because maybe in the next 10 years it will, praise the goddess, it will have been done by then. But I go back, Billie Jean King, you probably know, is joining us today, and she really was ground zero for so much that has happened for women. And I think the next phase will be 2 things. One, for our business, I think it'll be virtual reality. I think that it'll be where somebody watches your podcast, and it'll be immersive, and they will be joining you on the couch from home. And that's what I think will really bring us together as a community, and also that more businesses will support women in sports, which you're starting to see.
Yeah.
But I think the next 10 years, it'll explode.
Well, cheers to the future.
Yeah, cheers to the next 10.
Alicia, let me twist more this way to you. 10 years. We Need to Talk. And we just got this baby, We Need to Talk Now, off the ground. It's been an amazing, just impactful, inspirational. I'm running out of adjectives, but that's okay. It's been one of those days.
It's definitely one of those days when you're talking to all of these women who have been trailblazers in sports in general. Like, just take broadcasting out of it. They've just done so much in sports. It's just amazing to watch, be a part of. I know for me, I've been doing social for the brand. Definitely kicked off all the social for We Need to Talk, and that was a great, amazing blessing to have. But to be able to watch and be around all of these women who are literally like killing it and have set history, and just to be around them and to see how they do their craft has really inspired me, because as you know, obviously we're sitting right here doing what we do. It has inspired me to literally sit on this couch next to you. So I've been taking notes. It's
also for me, being in this industry for 5-6 years at this point, and going through your own trials and tribulations, specifically, just speaking about myself, and then hearing the stories of the things that so many of these women have had to overcome throughout different decades is just mind blowing. Things like not even having a restroom, specifically for women, ladies. it's mind-blowing because you think like, and this is not to negate how any of us feel. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone has their own obstacles. And I think the obstacles in the modern space that sports is kind of in right now is definitely not something that you can just, you know, turn the other cheek to. It's definitely, you know, there are a lot of hurdles to overcome in that situation. But it just reminds you just how far we've come. But it also reminds you, and it reminds me just how much of a responsibility having this platform is, and how much we are responsible for doing what was done for us for the next generation that follows. I think that's something that I've taken away from a lot of these conversations.
Yeah, and every single one that we've had, there's been some touch point of mentorship or, like you said, paying it forward.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And having to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, and I know that we've had these conversations before too, you know, just being in the industry in the ways that we have been, and how we never want to be the person that is not moving it forward for somebody else, or being an example for somebody else. And I think the example of this overall show of We Need to Talk and what they have done is a testament to that. And still going 10 years later.
I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for the original show, the pioneer, the OG, if you will. I mean, it's so impactful. And Tracy said something to us when we were kind of, you know, having our conversation with her, and a bunch of other people have shared the same sentiments throughout the day. It's mind-blowing and just surreal, and not in a good way, that this hasn't been copied in some way, shape, or form. You know, Tracy was talking about, we've seen multiple all-female-led broadcasts, whether it's in football, whether it's in basketball and some other sports throughout, you know, this industry. But we've yet to see it in this type of environment, which is, you think about how far we've come in 10 years, but then you think about how much further we have to go because we haven't seen something like this since.
Yeah, and this show's groundbreaking, no doubt, but we don't want it to be the only one.
Right. We don't want any more histories and first of. We want multiples and quadruples, and I'm not good at math, so I'm not going to try to go ahead and figure out what happens after that. But what happens after quadruple, I don't know. But it just shows that we still have so many barriers to break down and ceilings to crack open. And I hope that our pod, which is an extension of this absolutely historic and groundbreaking show, is a reminder that there's still so much ground to cover, and that having women in sports do it is not better or worse than men. It's just different. It's a different perspective. It's a necessary perspective. And I just hope that we see more of these in the next 10 years.
And listen, I believe in giving yourself a pat on the back, and I have to give us a pat on the back for what we're doing with We Need to Talk Now, and how we're continuing the legacy, you know, of the show that is obviously still on and still going strong and still doing amazing things, but also, you know, adding another layer to it that I feel like is needed. And I want to inspire other people to do the same thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
I love the voices that we're bringing into the conversation. I love the conversations that we have just about our perspective, but I definitely want to inspire, you know, the little girl or boy that's watching us, you know, on every week on We Need to Talk Now, to do the same in their respective fields, however they want to achieve. And it's such a
special time for women in sports across the board, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in the front office, whether you're behind the camera, in front of the camera. And I think that there's different obstacles that we're kind of attacking. You know, social media is a gift and a curse, as you know, because you also do social.
Listen,
and we talk about the comments, and Tracy said, don't read the comments. It's easier said than done. I think that human nature is, you kind of want to know what people think about your work and even think about you. And sometimes you're like, I shouldn't have done that. I know I do that all the time. Like, I probably should not have done that, especially when we're talking about this past WNBA season. It's been very contentious at times. There's been a lot of great conversations that have come from it. We've had them on our show, but I think that it's also shown that we need more women who are knowledgeable in certain spaces and who've been covering, you know, certain sports and doing the groundwork and being there from day one to really lend a voice of expertise, of knowledge, because there's a lacking, I think, that now that women's sports has hit a different level in terms of the boom that surrounds it, you know?
Definitely a different level. And when you look at We Need to Talk, the 10 years that they've had, and then what we're doing on We Need to Talk Now, we're really flexing our voice and saying the things that need to be said. And I think a lot of people, especially in this social space and in the climate that we're in now, it's really hard to do that. But I'm proud of us for doing it. And I'm proud of all of the women that started this conversation 10 years ago and how we're continuing it.
Yeah, so stop leaving us mean comments because we're not going to quit. All right, we see them. We don't care.
No, actually, we might clap back. Let's be clear.
We might every now and then. Just a little clap back.
Yes.
You know, what Damian Lillard say? These hands work. No, but I think that also we've been asking everyone this question throughout the day. Well, multiple questions. You know, what made you want to get involved with We Need to Talk, and where do you see women's sports and women in sports specifically going in the next 10 years? And I think that a lot of the answers have shared the same sentiments. But one thing that I took from it is now there's going to be a even bigger army team, if you will, of women crusading to make sure that the next 10 years is better than the past 10 years. And I think that's super special when you really reflect on what that looks like versus what it looked like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And it's truly a blessing to be a part of it. It really is.
That it is.
So I'm just blessed to sit here with you, blessed to have these conversations, and literally we're doing this every week on We Need to Talk Now.
Which we'll be doing this in 10 years.
Yes, we will be.
We'll be celebrating this. Liz will be yelling at us in 10 years.
Yes.
Emma will be yelling at us in 10 years.
Lord
That's
knows.
okay.
She'd be yelling at us now. I mean, we might deserve it a little bit.
No, you deserve it. I don't deserve it ever.
Ashley, don't start.
10 years of We Need to Talk, and we here at We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T, have been absolutely privileged to just talk to all of these amazing women. I mean, just incredible careers, illustrious careers, so much of their careers of things that they have yet to accomplish, and we are just privileged to be a part of it. You don't want to miss any of the content that we have coming your way, so make sure you are tapped into all of our socials. This girl right here is in charge of all of that. And you are listening to us or following us wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you have the subscribe notifications turned on YouTube, because again, you are not going to want to miss what we have coming your way. And to all of the incredible women, whether it's in front of the camera, behind the scenes, marketing, PR, again, social, we thank you all for an amazing 10 years of We Need to Talk. And here's to another 10.